Is this you? Well, in that case, this video right here is for you. Because today I'm going to go through top 5 reasons why you don't progress with your wheelies. So yeah, let's go to reason number 1. The first reason why you're not progressing with your wheelies is because you're way too eager to start to learn how to do the wheelie. It takes a very long time to learn how to get up the balance point. And that's one of the problems. People go out and just practice for one day and then they give up since they can't get up the balance point. For me, it took around 3 months just to be able to get up the balance point. Although I did have a completely stock bike at a time, so it's understandable why it took so long. So let's take an example right here. So if you're able to get the front wheel up like this, if you're just able to get the front wheel up like that in one day, then you should feel very good about yourself, because that's a lot of progress. It also depends on how tuned your bike is. If you have like 70cc and a nice exhaust, it is not that hard to get the front wheel up in the air, so you're gonna have to practice more technique. But if you have a stock bike like I did, it's going to take a much longer time to be able to get the front wheel up in the air. But it is still possible if you have a stock bike. So don't give up because it's going hard the first day. Because you will get it eventually if you give it enough time. So let's move on to the next tip. Another reason why you're having trouble to do the wheelies might be because you have a wrongly modified bike. An example of this might be if you have a too high of a gearing. Like me, for example, I have a 1465 gearing. It is a very good gearing since I can get the bike up on the back wheel quite easily, and I also have a decent top speed. So if you have a too high gearing, it might be more difficult to get the bike on the back wheel, since the power band of the bike is at much higher speeds. This results in that you can't do the wheelie at slower speeds, and it might get harder to get the bike on the back wheel. So I recommend having a lower gearing if you're doing wheelies, like me for example, a 1465 gearing. I don't really recommend going under that gearing, since then your bike will rev out much quicker and you have to shift gears all the time. But yeah, another tip I have if you want to get better at wheelies is to buy a racer for your bike. Let me show you. Buying a racer for your bike makes it a lot easier to get up on the back wheel, since you don't have as much power to the bike when you get up on the back wheel. You might be more wobbly to the sides with the racer, but it's much easier to get it on the back wheel. And the balance point is much larger also with the racer. So yeah, that's tip number 2. Let's move on. Okay, so tip number 3. Lack of technique. Another reason why you're not progressing with your wheelies might be because that you don't have the proper technique to get it on the back wheel. One technique might be the brake control. You might not have good enough brake control, so when you do the wheelie you might loop out. So I really recommend grinding the brake control a lot before you start your wheelie practice, because whenever you're about to loop you can just press down the back brake and you come down from the wheelie. I will put a wheel tutorial link down in the description and up here, so if you want to learn how to do the brake control, watch that video after this one. Another reason with the technique method is that some people sit down when they do the wheelie. They do like this. It is much harder to get the bike up on the back wheel if you're sitting down. So really work on your technique before you do the wheelies, because if you don't have the proper technique with the wheelies, you won't get it up on the back wheel. Sure, if you have a really powerful bike, you can just sit down and rev it with the clutch and you're up on the back wheel. But for me and many others, you really have to get the technique in before you can do the wheelie. So watch my wheel tutorial to get the technique in. I can do a little recap of the technique. You want to compress your forks and jump back on your seat as far as back as you can as you're dropping the clutch with one finger. But watch my wheelie tutorial if you want a more in-depth description on how you do it. Let's move on to tip number 4. Reason number 4, fear. Okay, so fear. Fear is another reason why you're not progressing with your wheelies. It's probably because you're scared of looping your bike. When you start your wheelie practice, you're gonna have to accept the fact that you're gonna crash your bike at least once. I have only crashed my bike once, and it was back in the summer when I just had been sick and I hadn't wheelied in a while. So you're gonna have to expect that you're going to crash if you want to do this kind of stunts. So maybe you don't want to have your nicest plastics and decals on when you're doing your wheelie practice. You might want to buy a brand new pair of plastics with not the original decals on, because you do not want to damage the original plastics. So yeah, you really have to accept the fact that you're going to crash when you do this kind of stunts. So when you're walking around and being scared all the time of looping your bike, you will never really get up to balance point, because whenever you're close, or at least when you think you're close to the balance point, you will just let go of the brake. And that creates like thinking that you're close to the balance point when you really aren't, because it's scary. So you really have to get in the brake reflex before you start the wheelies, because if you have practiced the brake reflex enough before you do the wheelie, you won't have the issue really of looping your bike, because whenever you're close to the balance point or behind the balance point, you can just press your back brake and you'll come down from the wheelie. So I can't stress this enough. Practice your brake reflex before you do wheelies, because you do not want to crash your bike. But you're gonna have to accept the fact that you're going to crash your bike at least once. So yeah, let's move on to tip number 5. Number 5. Reason number 5. No previous experience. Before you learn how to wheelie on your moped or your motorcycle, I really recommend learning how to wheelie on a bicycle. Because if you already know how to wheelie a bicycle, you already have the brake control and the balance point. So when you're on your moped or motorcycle later, it will be a lot easier to do the wheelie. But there is one downside of this. Since you're getting your brake control with your finger, one thing that can happen is when you do the wheelie on your moped and you're about to loop, you accidentally press down your front brake instead of your back brake. Yes. And that might result in you looping. Like me, for example. I used to wheelie my bike every single day on my way to school before I had my moped. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so good at wheeling my moped, because I had already learned how to wheelie the bike. So yeah, that's tip number 5. Holy shit, this is fucking exhausting to wheelie a bicycle. Shit also. Let's see, okay. Let's see how long I can wheelie this thing. There is wind. Fuck, man. Shit. Oh. Well, so that was tip number 5. Let's go back to my moped. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. And if you have any more further questions about how to do the wheelie or anything else, you can just comment down in the comment section and I will try to answer them. Until then, I see you in the next one. Bye.